Hi, Carol here. A warm welcome to my craft room. I'm using this Holtz stencil that comes with this beautiful butterfly stamp set. I just love it. My sister just got this for me and I thought I would incorporate it. I'm going to use Dreamweaver's clear embossing paste. I love this. And before that falls on the floor, I grab my cutter. So this is very shiny when it dries, and that's the look I wanted to get. And my tutorial is rather long, but I wanted to show you a Spellbinder's rose die set for making a rose that's absolutely beautiful. I've never used it, and I'm shopping in my own craft room, and I found it, and I thought, you know what? I love the idea of having a rose with separate petals, 3 different sizes. So, if you don't, you know how to make your roses in that, you can just skip through that portion and move on. It's also going to be a beveled card. And I love, love, love the look of acetate when it bevels over a flower card, something with depth in it. I've also been working on a watercolor project to give away as well for, excuse me, get back here. Now you have Dreamweaver paste all over your little feet. Oh yes, I had to get that out right at the beginning. Then it's, you don't have to wait for it later on because you never know what'll show up later on, right? So I'm going to partially dry this and set it aside while I create my butterflies. And it has 3 different styles of butterflies, which is nice. And as soon as I put it out, let me just see. Oh, I brought it back because I wanted to show you the beautiful shine that this clear embossing paste has. And it looks white when it goes down, but it dries clear. It's beautiful. And now I'm going to make, I think I made 12 butterflies of, I think 6 of each. So 12, 18, so about 18. I didn't really count them, but you'll see that there's quite a few up there. And I take my gold embossing powder and I'm going to emboss it. Any gold will do, but I thought we're going along the monochromatic look on our cards. I want to add either gold or silver. Today I chose gold. And then my colors, they're going to be Distress Oxide Inks. And here's the die. It's beautiful. It gives you 2 leaves. It gives you the bottom portion of the flower and then the covering of the bottom so that you don't see any ragged edges on your roses. And the little petals over top of the petals, I don't know what you call those things, but here they are. I did a ton of them. I just kept pumping them through my Vagabond, and then I did the edges in I'll leave the link in the light distress ink, the light pink. And then I grabbed the worn lipstick, and you can see how I'm dotting it. I want it to look realistic. I want it to have that really dotted look. And here's the one I did with gold leaves. I embossed gold leaves. I'm putting some of this beautiful shine on there, this white shimmer shine. And I'll leave all the links, like I said. And I created this, but we're going to do this slowly. But I wanted to show you, this is a vintage rose. You want to get your roses as flat as you can for your card without looking not rose-ish. See what I mean by the bottom portions? All of this is included. Isn't that funny? Rose-ish. Rose-ish. You want it to look and have some depth. So in this one, what I do is I separate it has three layers of card on this. This is Recollections from Michael's, and it's the pink pack. It has 3 different tones or colors in the one pack of 110-pound cardstock, light, medium, and dark pink. And so I chose the medium pink to make the flowers when I cut out from the die. And here you just spray it, and when it's wet, it's really easy to work with. As you can see, it separates them wonderfully with your pokey tools. So, well, I only use one pokey tool. Then I separate it, and then I spray it where I want it, and then I stop it. and let it dry. As you can see how it's lifted up there. Isn't that sweet? You just go around. It does take a little bit of time. It is detail work, but in the end, it is really worth it. And I only do one of these flat vintage roses. The rest will be actually grouped in another two, one medium size and one small size. And see how I'm spraying it with water? That's not the shimmer spray. It's just straight water, which will help the pokey tool get down inside and separate all the layers. And in the end, you can mold them however you like. You can push them back, make them look like a wave like I'm doing here, tear them a little bit to look natural, and then let it dry overnight before you put it on your project, and it will turn out nice. And like I said, once you wet it, you can manipulate it any way you like. And you'll see the difference between the two. I think the gold was a nice touch on this large one because I have gold in the butterflies and in the sentiment. I will speed up the process when we start doing them. I just want to get it started to show you how this particular Spellbinder's Rose die works. So you get this for the bottom. I used embossing powder and gold and heat set it. And although you won't see it on your card, it just is a nice touch, I think. You wet them down on the opposite side. Now when you curl them, you want to curl them away from you, all the petals. Just take your pokey tool, take whatever you have that works for you, and fold it back away from you when you're folding. You get 2 small size, 2 medium, and 2 large petals. So you take the 2 small ones, tuck one inside the other, and then turn them back and forth on your fingers to get that beautiful little shape for the inside of your rose. Then put another one and cover it totally on the outside. And then I fold it back later. Just don't worry about the fold yet. I wet the inside and then I tuck it. Now, if you want to have the light cardstock showing, you can do it reversed. Because once you wet it, it's easy to fold it back to look like a rose petal. But it does work well as to wet it later. You can do it either or. I find it easiest to wet my petals on the back and then manipulate them. And then I can wet it again if I want to fold it back on the upper portions of the petal. So you see here, it was hard to get it in looking to see that I had it. So once you have the you can see that I did wet it on the side that you're going to see, but that's fine because when the glue goes down from your glue gun, it does adhere, believe it or not. You just have to hold it there, and then later when you get more petals on, if you see it coming apart a bit, just stick that detailed glue gun down inside and it'll be just fine. It turns out really well. Once I get started explaining how I'm doing this, I'll fast forward it and not put you through the rigorous slow working of a rose. But every petal has to be placed on your rose. You see where that line is where we put the other one? You want to cover that line just a little bit and then follow it across and glue it down. So each will be offset. That's the key. You want each petal to be offset. You're going to work from your small right up to your large. Your large petals will be on the outside, and you can tell which ones go where because if you want to have a little bud, you know, you can just work with the small petals. But if you want a bud that's larger, you can use medium and then even larger with the large petals. And isn't that pretty? But you do want to make sure that you cover the one petal right there. See how I do that? It ends up that the split or the seam in that petal we put down is always in the middle of the next petal. So you place your seam in the middle and then wrap the petal around, and it will work every time. Always turning it in the same direction, either counterclockwise or clockwise, whatever makes you feel comfortable. And as long as you're putting the seam in the middle, see that? You're going to have the perfect rose every time. And manipulating it is just with water. See how I'm covering those 2 petals there so that the next petal can be right there, and those 2 seams are covered by the next petal. Easy peasy. And you just keep going around. Now if you find it didn't stick because it was too wet, go back in and add more, and it will. Trust you me. It dries, it sucks up that water so quickly, and then manipulate it with your fingers or your pokey tool. You will find really what works well for you, and wetting it is the secret. And remember, we used the dauber to put the worn lipstick on by pouncing it. It gives that look of having veins in the petals. It really is pretty in real life. You'll see that later on after the roses had time to dry. So see how I'm covering that middle, the seam, the right or left seam, whatever you choose. I'm going to cover it. There you go. The next petal will be in the center. There you have it. Now, isn't that nice? And then hold it till it dries. Take the next petal, which really means that you're putting half the petal. Let's watch it here together. I wet it, and then I have my finger there, and I just go over that petal a little bit with the next size up. Now we're going to a larger size, and cover it. And you can tell as you're going around how it's going to work. I had to add a little bit on the left side there, and there you have it. Isn't that nice? I think it's a sweet looking project. When I saw this die, I wondered whether it would be nice to use because the petals are separate, but I really do like it better than the twirl one, you know, the one you get, and it's just like it's all in one, and it's cut together from the inside to the outside in a swirl. So that way you have to just twirl it without any control over where you put the petals. Now, I used to do that for a long time, but I think I will stick to this method of having separate petals, because then I know where to put the small ones, the medium ones, the large ones. I get to put, you know, what color I like, and I think it was a good idea to use the Recollections 120-pound pink cardstock instead of having to color the cream cardstock. I could, you know, do the edges in gold. That would be very pretty. And I did do some of the petals with the gold embossing folder. And here you go. Here's the more vintage rose. Then there's the medium rose to the left and the small rose to the right. Now, I know this is going to be fast. I'm going to speed it up in a minute, but look how I started. Yeah, you're so careful at the beginning when you're doing your roses, and then all of a sudden it's just like put them in a pile, spray them, manipulate them around really quick. I put a cream colored stop bud on the inside of the rose this time and kept it cream. I thought it was really pretty, and then it was just do it. However it came out, I was just moving fast. And see how I twisted it? Once you get that small piece and you tuck the, it's like a letter C, and then you take the reverse C and put it inside that C. If you can see any sense out of that, that's fabulous. Then you get your little bud, and then it's just go crazy from there. Look at that. And it's so nice. And if you don't mind them not being wet and you can manipulate them, look at, I held it there so you could see how pretty it looked. And you're going from small to medium to large in the petals, and they are the most realistic petals. And I want to show you something at the end of this. I'm going to speed it up here so you can see the process. Here we go. We're just going to have a little bit faster, but I'm using the pokey tool to help me instead of my fingers, and that helps to push the glue back, and so it's not visible when you're putting the petals on. I think it helps a lot. And don't you love the cream colored bud on the inside? And here you have it. It's as easy peasy as that. And you will really like the die. It's inexpensive. It's by Spellbinders, and it's just a beautiful purchase, actually. We'll come back to the roses. I wanted to show you, I sponged on the Worn Lipstick Oxide ink with the Antique Linen ink. And this is the Spellbinder embossing paste, the stencil paste. This is beautiful and it is clear. And then I used the Antique Linen and the Worn Lipstick to get these colors that you're looking at there. Really nice. You're going to really love that stencil with this type of paste, because where you don't see the oxide ink, it's very, very translucent and shiny. It's so pretty, and I want to put it in opposite directions too. And I'll show you how I cover up the seam. See the bottom of that rose? Isn't it pretty? And because we're going to put the bevel over top to protect the flowers, you can put more deep set roses on there. And the antique rose, the vintage rose, is the tallest one. And then now I am working on setting up the actual front of the card, how I want to present it. And over to my right, that card, that's going to be the inside of the card. So I've taken some boughten little flowers. I think they're recollection flowers. I twist the stem over my pokey tool to get that nice twisty look there. And then I took out some black sparkle and my antique linen ribbon. Yes, the vintage ribbon. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm sorry, you know, I'm kind of bouncing here and there, but I wanted to show you the beautiful look of these Tim Holtz vintage butterflies. I like to just get a little bit of look-see on how I'm going to create it here. Remember, I had all of those die cuts in the top portion of my island there I'm working from. That's what I'm creating the giveaway cards with. There's the butterflies that I fussy cut out, and they're all with gold embossing powder. And now I'm just seeing, okay, how am I going to create this? How many items do I need from that big pile that we're working on? And yeah, so this one here, I think I did so many butterflies, but I'm just going to show you that I did fussy cut all of them, so that you didn't see any of the white cardstock. And then I go over it with my distress tool as well on the edges, and I go around the edges with a gold pen. So I don't know if I showed that in the actual edit here, but I did go over the sides of all of these with my gold pen. And it's like any cutouts. If you go over it with black marker, you know, it just saves you from seeing the white or cream, whatever color cardstock you have, from showing through on the sides. That's all it is. And here I'm going through and we'll fussy cut all of them and set them aside. I had a lot of fun doing this card for a giveaway. I just love it, and I think you will too. And on the comments, if you want a particular card out of the 6, leave it in the comments, because I am going to separate them, you know, from the comments, because there's so many. Instead of putting them all together, I'll separate them. So I forgot to mention that if there is a card you would prefer to have for Christmas, you just let me know in the comments, and I'll certainly put your name in for that particular card. So here's what I did with the butterflies. I did the backs with the vintage gold, and it doesn't matter if you get it all. You're not going to see it. You're just going to see the tips of them, but it's easy just to pounce it on your Versamark and then set it, you know. Then we're going to move forward to actually doing the inside of the card. So I chose to put double-sided tape on the back, and then I took my distress tool and I distressed all the edges very nicely so that they were nice. I went around the card base, because on the back of this card I put another sheet of paper for the heaviness, right? Now this is the vintage ribbon. It's beautiful. It's linen, very pretty, and I wanted to match, so I took the antique linen, I took a paper towel, the worn lipstick, and you're just going to drag set down your ink, your Oxide ink, and drag the ribbon. And I left spaces to put the antique linen, and the worn lipstick was first. And then I go through. You don't have to worry it's precise because you're going to wrinkle it up some more. And then I also do the front and the back of the ribbon, because you don't know how, when you twist it to manipulate it, the bow is going to be, right side, inside, outside, whatever. So I added a little bit of water, take off some of the ink. I'm going to heat set it. It dries almost immediately on the front and back, and there you have matching ribbon. And I'll show you how well it dried. There wasn't anything, look at that, on that paper towel once it was dry. So I found it to be great. Yeah, great. To what? Create. Awesome, isn't it? Now we're going to move on. I used double-sided tape to put the front on like that, one upside down from the other, and then the middle piece, and then the beautiful ribbon is ready to go. Now I have We Are Memory Keepers, these punches that actually punch out holes for different creations. I tried to use this one, but there was no way. It's like the crocodile, right? You have to get the large one to be able to move farther down your page, of course. Well, I had a We Are Memory Keepers, two of them, two tools right here. Here they are. This one is wonderful, and they come with the mat to use, and then there's all different sizes. They're all magnetized, and you can do it like this, or you can use the little hammer. I'm going to get it. If you don't want to use the punch end of it, there's We Are Memory Keepers little hammer, and you just put the whatever you want to use. For me, it's there it is, and it's magnetized. It just pops right down into the hole. You don't have to worry about it coming out. You just push it down like it's on a spring, and it cuts the holes out. I got it at Michael's, both of them, both sets. So once you have your cutting mat underneath, they both come with small little cutting mats, 6 inches each. So you end up with 12 inches if you use those. But I have another one right here that I like to use, and it has the magnetic ruler, which is wonderful when you're working on a project, to just hold it down, especially for something like this. And all you do is seat it down and push it, and there's your hole. And then I'll measure it and probably measure it again just to make sure I have the ribbon. But when I went here to do this, I thought, wait a minute, I don't think I want one in the middle. I think I just want ribbon on the top and ribbon on the bottom. I didn't want to ribbon it out and have too much there. And as you can see, if you don't take the paper out of that little section there that you're punching, it has a little indent. You'll end up not being able to punch through. So I did it again. And think about this, I'm going through 2 layers of 120-pound cardstock as well. So it's doing a pretty good job. And you just like pump it up and down, and you're great. Now I'm going to add my corners. Yes, I went over to the sides just to push it in more. I'll give you the measurements of this card later on in the video. I'll have to go into my craft room. But isn't that beautiful, the worn lipstick Oxide ink with the antique linen? I really love it, and I just went over it with an applicator. And now I did the hanging bells on this on these stickers. So pretty, and the gold accent is quite lovely. And then I am going to add the ribbon from the back to the front. I'll just cut a little slant on it so I have a point. And then I'm going to, I think, take my pokey tool here and help it along. I can't see it on there, but if I remember right, yep, there we go. And then just slide it. And look at, you have matching ribbon. Can it get any sweeter than that? And then I'll take the piece underneath and go through. And you know, I didn't even cover the back. You know, I generally would. I have 2 layers on there already for the weight of the card, but I don't. You'll see what I do at the end. It didn't make a difference that the ribbon was showing, actually. You also want to have your glue dots ready. I always put a glue dot on the back of my bows to keep it in place, and I also put it at the end on the little strings. You know how I want them to look. I'll kind of lift them up so they have a little wave in them, and then I'll put a glue dot right there. See that? And you can't even tell. There you go. And then if I have to do anything else to it, I can just lift it up. And you can see my edges on the cardstock are all, there we go, there's my other piece. They're all distressed. And then I grab the other. I love doing matching ribbons to the inks that we use. Doesn't it look pretty? It just seems to add something. And this, like I said, is not the back of the card. This is the inside of the card. So I'm going to tie a nice little bow to match, one on the right, one on the left. And yeah, nice small bow, then cut it off, get your glue dots, put it underneath. And I think I'm using the Stampin' Up! Little glue dots, and cut the edges off. And then I like to pull on the edges of the string to make it frayed on the ends of the ribbon there. So I'll cut them, and then I'll just fray them. Yes, I love that. And I just picked it up because it needed to be shortened because the top ended up short. And I'm fraying it again. Just that little vintage look. I think whoever gets this will really like it. And it'll be a fun project for you to do something like this, because you can do your cards just like I'm showing you here. And just do this as the front page. And now I had these two hearts. Remember, we cut these out for card number 1 and I didn't use them. So I put one on the right hand side that was low underneath the ribbon, and then I put one on the left that starts at the top and works its way down. So this gives the look of stability. Just makes it look even, you know, visually nice. And they call that visually, I don't know. It's just nice to me. It doesn't matter what they say. It's just nice. Don't you think? I did the edges in the worn lipstick, and then I just brushed along the hearts with the antique linen. Now our thin filigree. I have a ton of this I have to use up on cards. I don't know. I may be doing more than 6. Who knows? And then I had the memory box houses. These come in 2 sets. You have a long strip of houses that are all attached, and then you have the ones that are separately attached to put on top. I used the separate one, and then I layered them. There's the one. There's the attached ones. They're 2 separate A and B sets that come out. You can buy A separately or set B, the one I'm using here. And I just put some glue behind it, raised them up double, except for one house I wanted to look like it was back in, so I only did it with 1 layer. I like when you cut out all your die cuts at the beginning. I had a lot of these that I had put into my package, like with the actual die that I had cut out from another project. So I was going through my dies and I saw that I had these extra pieces in there, and I pulled them out because it was perfect. They were all in cream, so they matched. Then I'm going to glue 2 on top of one another, and then the smallest house I will leave on the right without any lift to it. I won't raise it up so it looks like it's set back in. And you know, I fussed with it because I'm designing as I go. I'm just looking at what I have and then designing the card as I think fit. And I thought just a row of houses like this would be nice. Then I cut out my acetate. I'm sorry, my 40-pound, not acetate. I always get these two mixed up. It's my vellum. And it's the 40-pound Stampin' Up! Thick vellum to go behind the house so that I could put some oxide ink color behind it. And we'll do that in just a minute. Right now, I'm just raising the houses up And like I said, if this gets monotonous as you're watching it and long, I did have to edit down from a lot of hours to get it down to this because I was also working, like I said, on a painting to give away. So yeah, I just took my time with this week, and I think it turned out really pretty. I love these houses. I'm looking at it there, wondering whether I should cut another house out to raise it up, but I thought two is enough, just even with the piece of cardstock that's currently on there. And yeah, I was thinking, should I put some in the background? You don't want to add too much, but you want to add enough, right? And I thought this was just perfect. I love the little windows. I love the roof, because in the first set, you can take the piece that falls out of it and you can raise it up, you know, twice and make little wee lines for, you know, to make it look like a roof, or you can leave it flat, or you can put glossy accents on it. There's so many possibilities. It's crazy. I love creating large size cards like this, and this is a nice large card size for sure. And as I seat this down with the vellum behind it, like I just cut the shape, I want to add some trees, some foliage behind there. So because the house is large on the left, I add very few branches, and then on the right the houses are smaller, so it allows me to make the foliage more intense, like a lot of it, and it doesn't take away from everything. And what else can you put like this than a fence? It makes it look more farm-like, more country-ish, just by adding these little fences. You want one up and one down, so it gives the impression that the gate is three-dimensional and it's not just straight across. And here we go with our micro brushes. You know I love my micro brushes, and I love the Oxide inks for coloring. So I just take it, and the tip of the micro brush, yeah, and if you get too much on, just set a paper towel over top and then rub it with your micro brush and it will pick it up. And then I'll use both the antique linen. I'll do the antique linen on some of the houses, you know, on the separate house here, and look how I did the roof in the antique linen. And then I'll do the little holes that looks like the sunshine going through with the worn lipstick. And on here, I don't know if you saw this, I don't think we did together, but I punched out with the Martha Stewart lace punch some vellum so that it looked like grass. I did not want to take away, like add anything with bulk that would take away this clean look. There you have the, I always say acetate. There you see I have the vellum, the thick vellum behind here. I've glued it on already to the house, and then I'm going to place it down. And doesn't that just pop off the cardstock, just having that vellum? Now, speaking of vellum, I don't know if I just said it along the way because I keep stopping and starting, you know, but I put the vellum on underneath the houses with the Martha Stewart lace punch. I punched out the top to make it look like grass, give it that really vintage look. And then it went right down to the bottom of the cardstock on each side. I lifted up the Bell Gold sticker, and then I put it right back over top of the vellum. And I think that just, I don't know, being a, you know, it went with the rule of thirds on the page, where the vellum went a third of the way up, and then the houses, and then you have your branches behind the houses. Very pleased with the inside of the card, and it uses up the products that we die cut. It uses some ribbon. You know, remember back in the day, I don't know about you, but I fell in love with ribbons, all different textured ribbons when I first started about 5 or 6 years ago creating cards. I just, you know, so now my apothecary drawers, that apothecary I have, it has about 40 drawers just full of different colors and textures of ribbons I want to get used up. And I also put the dots in the lace die cut. The punch, actually it's not a die cut, it's the Martha Stewart punch. I put it in the holes there just so that you can see that it was to be an element like grass. I chose not to put the fence raised up. I thought it was nice and subtle. It just gave a sweet look to the inside of the card. And then I'm getting ready to do the back. And I can't wait to do that. It worked out perfectly for me on each side. And I wanted to do monochromatic cards to give away. And look at those. I decided not to use those. I'll tell you why. They're metal. I didn't want to put any metal. I wanted to keep this all a vintage soft look for whoever gets this. And but I did choose to do a cloth butterfly from I think it's Heidi Swap on the front, and you'll see that when we get there. Now for the butterflies. I took each of the sides of the butterfly and I pinched it so that I could get a raised look on the like on the outside of the body of the butterfly. So I kind of manipulated it with my pokey tool there. See how I did that? And it popped the center body up. And it really, really did look nice. See that? You're just pushing it in and giving that body a little lift, then lifting it up on the wings, and it did add a nice element for me. I was very pleased. And then I'm just taking my pokey tool, making a nice crease in there, and I'll add a glue dot to the top, pinching it up just a little bit, adding a little glue dot top and bottom, and holding it so I can get some leverage on there. Not too much because we're not putting acetate or anything on the back. But I thought of, you know, sometimes I would cover up the ribbon with another piece, but because I already covered it, to give it that weight I always want. See how I'm doing that? To make it, I'm kind of showing you. I just maneuver the wings and push them in and push them out. So I'm breaking up the fibers in the paper, and it makes it easier. And the top and the bottom are the same butterfly, and the middle is a different one. I took my Signo gel pen, my Signo pen in gold, and I made the antennae. I took my little wee sparkle dots, and I put them as one black one on the head and two tiny ones on the antennae, and it gave that little black element, and it glittered. And now I had these hearts, the gut pieces of that heart piece on the inside of the card, so I used them to just make it look like it's fluttering out the back of each butterfly. And I was able to incorporate even the gut pieces of that heart piece, and I think it was on another piece of die cut material that had hearts left over. So I used both elements, and the small and the larger ones, and just had them all floating in different directions, and easy peasy. That's the back of our giveaway number 3 card. I'm putting ivy leaves on the back, not the bells. These will be ivy, just to give it a different, distinct look all of its own. Each page has its own identity. There you have it, my friends. I quickly showed you the inside right there. I decided to use 2 little twigs just sticking out from the gate. I don't know why I chose to do that. I saw them sitting there and I thought that's kind of cute. So I added that, and now to the front, and we will be finished. There's that Heidi Swap. It's made out of cloth. It's really pretty. It almost looks like paper towel. It's so vintage. And then it has the white pearl as the body and 2 little white pearl dots as the antennae. Really, really pretty. There's 3 in a pack, I think. I got them at Michael's as well. I wanted to have a white element Even though the card is green, I thought it would be nice. I added some of the Oxide ink on top. And then I want to make it look like an S. When I am clustering flowers, you either want to make it look like a C, a backward C, or an S. I don't know, it's aesthetically nice to look at it that way. You can see how it's just twisting in the shape of an S. And then I'll add a little bit of the worn lipstick to the white to break it up. And now I'm working with all the elements I have lying around, if I can untwist it. So we have these beautiful fine filigree I incorporate in it, because on the lower left and the upper right, you see that that stencil had filigree. I mean, it matched perfectly. Can a card come together so beautifully? Each card is different. You know, the first card was out of, it was Cocoa Cups. And the second one were the ice skates, where I used the filigree on the ice skates. And now I'm using some of the same materials for the third card. And it is a floral vintage style. And then I want to incorporate odd numbers. So I keep that in mind as well. Not necessarily on each one, like worried about there's 3 butterflies or 5 butterflies or 3 flowers, whatever. Just as long as when it's finished, it is, you know, in uneven numbers. That's really nice. Now here I go for the S. I'm bringing it around. I'm going to put the medium-sized rose there. And then let me hone in there. And all the colors are matching. Even when you open up, everything will match. I don't put it there. You want to make the S, you know, fall into line here. So, yeah, I'm showing you the curve of it. Want to add that small rose probably right over the middle size one. I'm adding clusters of the spray pearls, and you get those in packages at Michael's in the wedding section. So I'm going to add that. I think the sprays really make it pop as well. It has that filigree lightness to the card, don't you think? And I didn't want to put it over top of the white butterfly, so I settled for it down here. And I think in the end, I have a butterfly peeking up there as well. I think you can see it there. So there's 3 butterflies, and then I made sure I put the green leaves in there. Remember we die cut those leaves out of the same set as the flowers? Well, I used some Oxide ink, the light green. I'll leave it in the description of the color I used. But it's so faint, but yet so pretty. And here's a sprig of Christmas ivy in a die that I die cut going there. Adds to the lace effect. And here's some of the leaves, and I'll lift them up so they have a little bit of a curved wave to them, and I'm adding them here and there just to break up the background there so you can see the leaves. I think it's actually in the antique linen to match. That's right. I don't think I grabbed another Oxide ink, so it is. Then here's another one of those sprigs that I used in the inside. And I'm just trying to go through and see where and what I want in there. I don't want anything higher than that vintage rose when we put the acetate bevel on. And there's another sprig, but I don't think I ended up using that. I don't want to take away too much from the background of that beautiful stencil. Now we're finishing up. Anything I want to put underneath the bevel, I do. I had these clear round dots that I got at Walmart a long time ago, and I love them. They're really, really pretty. So I add that, and then we're going to move on to the beveled element. Once I get these beautiful dots on there, these iridescent clear dots, I'm going to put the glaze, the Nouveau glaze, over top and let it drip down to hold it. Then I'm going to add another little flower with my Pico Irresistible Embellisher. It's clear and it's liquid, and on all the parts that are raised up, I put that clear. Now, I cut my acetate to the length of the card, right? So you want to have it with at least 4 inches, 3 inches extra, but the length you want to take your scoreboard, the length you want to be whatever size card it is, obviously, right? But then you want to score it a 1/2 inch on the left and put double-sided tape on the score. And then leave yourself some room here because you want to manipulate it up so you can see how much you're going to need to score that side. And I needed to score it, I think it was 3/4 of an inch. By the time I pull it, it was just 1 dot over that, but you'll know for your card. You just score it and give yourself enough of the bevel, right? And then take your bone folder if you wish and make a nice crease. Put double-sided tape on there like you did the left-hand side. And you want to make sure you put the left-hand side down first. You don't want to leave that freehand because it'll affect your scoring. Once it's down and you release the tape on the left, it is easy to work on the right-hand side. So I grabbed some double-sided tape, as you can see, and we're going to put that on. It's getting the right amount of tape. You don't want to have it right up to the crease. You want it a little bit before the crease, and that way it'll seat very nice for you. And I cut it off, I took it off, and then the bevel was exactly where I wanted it because I measured that first. I brought it over, made sure that it was going to have the right lift on it, and now I can take it like this, standing up, and fold it and crease it down. When you stand it up like that, and look at that. I love the bevel on this. It's so crazy pretty. Then I'm going to cut another cardstock right here to go over top. I'm going to take my distress tool and distress the edges, and we're going to seat that. And I mean, it is an easy peasy method of making cards look just a little step up when you put a bevel on it. And of course, I'll make a box for it when I send it out. This will have to be boxed because of the bevel. And yeah, so I'm just going to cut this. I am going to distress the edges. I'm going to put some double-sided tape on there and put it down to cover the 2 folds. And I think they were both folded the same, but it doesn't matter, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, whatever, to get that bevel to stick. When you use double-sided tape, it's pretty safe. And there you have it, my friends. I look forward to giving these Christmas cards away by you just leaving a comment. Now I need Merry Christmas, right? I found this Merry Christmas stamp in the ton. I hadn't even opened this either. Like, I'm starting to use up. It's been a year since I haven't gone out shopping. I mean, I have bought maybe 2 or 3 items, but I haven't gone shopping like I used to go on the internet or in stores. I decided instead of using a die cut for this, I would just cut it off. And I have to say, I like shopping in my own craft store. My own craft store. I don't have a store. I have a craft room. Oh, that's funny. I like using up my products that I've bought over the last 5 years. And, you know, we get it stored away and we end up buying new, and the old, you know, it gets left out. So a year ago, I decided to use up what I have. And then when the very last thing I've used, I'll start to possibly buy things again. But I cut it off nicely like this. I put little flags on the end, distressed it. And then I added the 2 Oxide inks like I did earlier on the edges. I made sure it was long enough so I could lift it up with that little bit of lift. Because I have the bows there, it will protect it when I close the card. Now we are finished. I want to show you all the sides here as we move along. And I'm going to show you what I did to this to cover the acetate. I wanted to make sure it was doubly secure because I didn't want that acetate to lift. So I put double-sided tape, and when I took this off, I also put the Nuvo glue all over. That way there was no possibility of the beveled acetate to release itself, because this was extra protection. Thank you very much for subscribing to my videos. I do appreciate that very much. And thank you for leaving a comment. If there's a particular card of the 6 cards you would like to receive, just let me know in the comment section. And it's as easy as that to win. All you have to do is drop me a line. So take care, everybody. Have yourself a blessed weekend. I so appreciate you joining me. I hope you'll give a bevel card a try if you haven't done it before. I'll make a box for it to go in the mail. There's the middle and there's the outside. And thank you so much. We got to use quite a bit of product and we got to make roses together. That's pretty awesome. So enjoy the pictures and we'll see you on card number 4. Take care, everybody.